Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tarot by Hillary Live. I am your host, Hillary of tarotbyhillary.com. The website is down below if you want to book a reading with me. I am a professional tarot reader, demystifying the mystical and putting you in touch with that most beautiful gift, your intuition, because yes, my friend, you have intuition. I believe everybody has intuition. So, apologies for my being 5 minutes late to the live broadcast. If you're watching the replay, there's no skin off your teeth. But for my live viewers, I am sorry I am late because Mercury is in Gatorade, folks. Mercury is in retrograde and will be until I believe March 6th or 9th. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll actually go ahead and look that up for you guys right now so that we can give a little bit of a astro weather update at the top of the episode. And as always, like I say pretty much every single time I go live, I'm going to try and keep this episode to be an hour or under because at this time right now, I am teaching my Tarot Intuitive Chorus. We are on Module 3, and I have my students to get to at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time sharp. So we got to keep this to an hour so that I can have my prep time. So give me a second. Let me pull up the astro weather from my dear friend Teresa Reed, aka the Tarot Lady, and her wonderful Astro Biz Digest. If you don't already subscribe to the Astro Biz Digest, you are missing out. It is wonderful. Especially if you are not an astrologer like me. I am not an astrologer, but she really does explain astrology terminology, say that 5 times fast, and what it means in layman's terms, in regular real world jargon, instead of it having to be complete and utter astrobabble and having to figure it out. Teresa really does do a wonderful job of explaining, here's what this is, and here's what it means to you. So Devon is here. Hello, Devon. All right, so this is coming from Teresa Reed's AstroBiz Digest, because remember, I am not an astrologer. I am a tarot reader. I know just enough astrology to be dangerous. So this is the reason why I subscribe to the AstroBiz Digest. So Mercury is currently retrograde, so make sure your computer's backed up, slow down, plan for delays, be patient with travel. Watch what you say online, watch what you say in person. Don't get into it with haters or trolls, or don't sign contracts, or if you can avoid it, and don't buy any new tech gear. So remember the REs during a Mercury retrograde: review, revise, but don't do anything drastic or serious during this time. Because contracts that usually are signed during a Mercury retrograde, especially contracts that you have not double and triple checked, tend to have problems associated with them after the Mercury retrograde period ends. There's always a snafu that happens with them, or so I've seen. So let me see when Mercury goes direct. There's a really great website, by the way. I mentioned this in our Card Slingers Coast to Coast podcast on Mercury in retrograde. And it is simply ismercuryinretrograde.com, I think. In retrograde.com. Yes. So that is the URL. URL is ismercuryinretrograde.com. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that into the chat window so you guys can have that for later. But we are in Mercury in retrograde right now. And I believe, yes, sorry, Mercury turns direct at 8:48 p.m. Pacific time on March 9th. So we are in Mercury in retrograde until March 9th. Okay? Okay. So more of the AstroBiz Digest for today. trine between Mars and Uranus at 4:10 a.m. And this is, by the way, Eastern Standard Time for the AstroBiz Digest information. Creates the best day for online marketing. So remember, the AstroBiz Digest does have a businessy feel to it. It is made for entrepreneurs and business owners, but I have found that it has worked very well in my own personal life too. So I highly, highly recommend it. So at 11:08 p.m., the moon is void of Chorus, making tonight better suited for hobnobbing with friends. If you work your marketing smart all day, you'll have reasons to celebrate tonight. It's a power day for Aquarius and a weak day for Leo. So that is from the AstroBiz Digest, and let me tell you a little bit about what's going on this weekend. Saturday, moon is void of Chorus all day long, making this day best for handling things already in motion. Don't start anything new. Leave it be until Sunday. And then Sunday is moon in Pisces at 1:37 a.m. This transit of the moon favors all things creative, and it's also great for self-care. Give me 1 second here. New moon is on Sunday, and it is at 10:32 a.m. And I will read you a little bit about that. Yeah. New moon in Pisces. This day, so Sunday, marks the best day for starting creative projects. If you have an idea, this is your green light to move on it, but do keep in mind that Mercury is in retrograde and it will make trouble along the way. So start by making plans, but don't begin taking action until March 9th when Mercury is stationing direct. So again, this is from Teresa Reed. Thank you, Teresa, as always, for her wonderful, wonderful astrology work. And I believe she already posted new moon readings, 1-card readings on her website. So let me pull that up for you guys too. TheTarotLady.com. And whenever I look at those card posts or those horoscopes or tarot scopes, I tend to read not only for my sun sign, but also my rising sign, aka your ascendant, because the combination of those two signs makes for a more holistic reading, or at least I found that to be the case, because my sun sign is Aries, but my ascendant, aka my rising sign, is Capricorn. So sometimes your sun sign, you don't necessarily present yourself as your sun sign. Sometimes, like if people are guessing which sign you are, they end up guessing your ascendant rather than your sun sign, because I feel like the ascendant is like kind of how you present yourself to the world. So I may present a little bit more as a Capricorn because that's my ascendant, not my sun sign. So I tend to read for my sun sign and for my ascendant, and sometimes for my moon sign as well. Because remember, in our natal chart, in our birth chart, we are not just our sun sign. There's way more going on in a birth chart than just where the sun happened to be, astrology wise. So if you're interested in that, you can go on to, I believe, astro.com, cafeastrology.com to get a free calculation of your natal chart. But you do need to have your birth date, your birth time, and the place of your birth. So most of the time, most people have their birthday and their birthplace, but sometimes they will not have their birth time. But it really is important to have your birth time in order to calculate your chart accurately. If you don't have your birth time, you can always put in noon for your birth date, but that won't give you the most accurate information, and it probably won't give you the correct ascendant for yourself. So you can always look on your birth chart, ask your parents, or even ask the hospital in which you were born to see if they have a copy of your birth certificate, which may have your birth time on it. So there you go. That's your astro stuff before we get into tonight's episode. And remember, this is live recording now on Friday, February 21st, 2020. So keep that in mind if you are watching the replay. That is the astrology of the time of this recording. And I am going to go ahead and link as well to the new moon in Pisces tarot readings for each zodiac sign that I was mentioning, again, from Teresa Reed. Remember that the new moon in Pisces, that'll put a sensitive, mystical vibe into the day. Emotions may be raw, and also you might be feeling more intuitive than normal because the sign of Pisces is all about the water element. And remember, the water in tarot, the cups element, is about feelings, is about emotions, but it also can be highly intuitive as well. So let me link to that for you guys. There you go. Okay. And if you are joining us live, feel free to say where you are tuning in from. I would love to hear it. And if you are watching the replay, you can go ahead and do that too. All right. Tonight's episode is all about my favorite decks. And we are not just restricting this to tarot decks. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about oracle decks, Lenormand decks, any kind of divination deck. Don't really know much about the Kipper system, but if someone wants to contact me and tell me a little bit more about it, I'd be willing to look into that divination system. I found that a lot of the time, even like different careers, different networking events have these trends. And so too is the case for tarot readers, the conferences that I go to. You tend to see a trend in different divination systems either making a comeback or everyone seems to be trying them out. Like a few years ago, Lenormand was very, very popular. It was seeing this huge resurgence, and everyone was coming out with a Lenormand deck. Everyone was coming out with a Lenormand book. And if you're interested in Lenormand, I can't recommend more highly Rana George's The Essential Lenormand. I took a class with her at Reader Studio. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the Lenormand system because it is so freaking specific and very like rigid, very different to what tarot is, because you can get a lot of information out of a tarot card, a single tarot card, but for Lenormand it is not read that way. Lenormand tends to be read in a sentence, and you need like 2 or 3 Lenormand cards in order to really give an accurate interpretation. So, but we will be talking a little bit about Lenormand decks and the Lenormand decks that I like, that may or may not be great decks in the eyes of expert Lenormand readers, because sometimes when the imagery is really pretty in a Lenormand deck, it tends to take away from what Lenormand is supposed to be doing, where it's just like you're reading the symbols, and only that symbol. Like the fox card is always the fox card. The snake card is always the snake card. It's a very rigid, interesting system. And if you want to learn more about Lenormand, I did do a previous episode of this series about the differences between tarot, oracles, and Lenormand decks. So you might want to check that out, and I will try to link to that episode when I put this up on my YouTube channel. So first off, though, I want to hear what your favorite decks are. I am a divination magpie. I love what I love. I can't get enough of different decks, and I've actually been really, really good lately, and I haven't been buying any new decks in the last 2 or 3 months. So I am ready to buy some more. I actually just ordered 2 new Oracle decks, or new Oracles to me. The Starseed Oracle from Rebecca Campbell and Daniel Noel. I already do have their deck, their previous Oracle collaboration, the Work Your Light Oracle deck, which I have right here. So you might recognize this from past episodes, especially if I've pulled an oracle card for the weekend forecast. And we will be doing the weekend forecast at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that. So we're going to get right into my favorite decks and giving you a list of pretty much all of the decks that I own. But this is an Oracle deck, and it's a beautiful, beautiful deck. So that's recommendation number 1 there. But I just got their newest collaboration Oracle deck, the Starseed Oracle, because Hay House was having a sale on Oracle decks, or their different decks that they have. I think they might have a few tarot decks, but remember, tarot is a very specific structure. So sometimes certain decks say that they're a tarot deck and they're not a tarot deck. Like, there, for example, one of the decks that actually was on sale was like the Psychic Tarot, and it comes in a blue box, but it's only 56 cards. It's not a tarot deck. So I think I complained about that in the Oracle decks versus tarot decks episode. So go ahead and find that and watch that episode. So that's recommendation number 1. This is one of my favorite Oracle cards, Oracle decks that I use. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about when I use Oracle cards in a reading. So this is the name of the episode. But I would love to hear what you guys are currently digging, which decks you're currently loving. It doesn't have to be a tarot deck. It can also be an Oracle deck, or a charm casting system, or a Lenormand deck. So please go ahead and drop your recommendations in the chat. I'm sure I would love to hear them. And also I'm sure that other watchers of the episode, other viewers of this episode would love to hear it as well. So when I use Oracle decks, so primarily I am a tarot reader, but I have the methodology of using everything I got at my disposal, whether it's pendulums, whether it's an Oracle deck, whether it's the Tessera Oracle, which I am going to also recommend in this episode. I am such a big fan of the Tessera Oracle by Tori Walcott. But I tend to use Oracle decks after a tarot reading to provide a final 1-card takeaway, because I don't like to end a tarot reading by pulling a tarot card. Because what happens if you pull from the tarot deck to have like that final summation? Here's your message to take away from, here's your empowerment to take away from the reading, and you end up getting the freaking Tower card. It's really hard to, or the Death card, or the Devil card, or one of the like the typical big bad cards of the tarot. Now, not necessarily they don't have to always be bad. Like, most tarot cards are neutral, and rarely are they positive or negative. They have to be read in conjunction and in context with the rest of the reading and the other cards that came up. And I tend to read in an empowering way, in a conversational way, because if someone walks away from a tarot reading with me and they're feeling negative and they're feeling pessimistic and they're feeling defeated, then I didn't do my job as a tarot reader right. So I want people to walk away from a tarot reading feeling empowered and ready to take on the world. So I find that Oracle decks, while they do have a bad reputation of being kind of fluffy bunny, very gentle, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like Oracle decks are a little bit more compassionate, and I like to end the reading with that energy rather than the whack people up the side of the head with tarot knowledge and the god smacking, if you will. So I hope that makes sense to everyone, but that's the reason why I use, I typically will shuffle an oracle deck for my client, or the client will shuffle from that and pick one card to take away from the reading. And I wish I had more oracle decks that I could just hand them that card and be like, here's your takeaway. But unfortunately, then I kind of ruin the deck that I'm working with if I were to give away all of the cards from it. So we have a recommendation here. Devon's recommending the Dreamkeeper's Tarot by Liz Huston, and I would love to know why you're digging it. So go ahead and put that in the chat and let me know. So that's how I use oracle decks in my tarot readings. I typically use it to close up a reading because I like to have containers for my readings. This is actually one of the ways that I create a container for my readings. So this is my psychic mala that Jen Cintrone made for me. And it has many of the different stones that I associate with psychic work. And I'm kind of like decked out right now in my psychic crystals because I've got my rainbow moonstone earrings on. And this also has rainbow moonstone, I believe labradorite in this. And I'm also wearing my labradorite. And I think there's iolite and I'm not sure what the purple stone is. I feel like it's a combination of like amethyst and fluorite. I'm not sure of the crystal's name though. I feel like it's a hybrid crystal between the two. But this mala I will put on to signal the universe, hi, I'm ready to read. I am ready to read for someone, or I'm ready to read for myself. So this is something that I use to create the container in which to do my best work for readings. This is my opening ritual, is putting this on. My opening ritual is also getting water, making sure that I have the proper hydration ready, maybe putting out some crystals or putting on some more crystals, or putting crystals on the reading space. So deep breaths as well for myself, for the client as well, making sure that we're taking deep breaths and taking, like, not thinking about any of the problems like in the commute to get to that space, any problems from the day. It is simply a way for us to become present so that the reading can happen. And then you want to, not only do you want to open the reading space, but you want to close the reading space. No, not necessarily close it completely. Like when you're done for the day, yes, close it completely. But if you're working with multiple clients in the day, you want to have like a mini closing ritual for each client. So that oracle card at the end of that reading, that client's reading, is a way for me to signal, okay, this is the final card, this is your final message, to be able to close off the reading for that person so that I can move on to the next reading for the next client. I hope that makes sense to everyone, and giving you more tips and tricks for reading tarot for yourself and for other people. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. So other decks that I love, and by the way, this is the reason, like me, magpie tarot reader, Teresa Reed actually gave me the nickname the Keith Richards of tarot, because I would go to tarot conferences and I would just come back to the table ready for the next master class, just arms full of new decks or bags full of new decks, because they're like potato chips. Like once you pop, you can't stop. Kind of similar to tattoos as well. So I would just look around, be enamored with the art on different tarot decks or different oracle decks, and I would end up picking it up and working with it. So I've worked with quite a few different decks in my time. Maybe the reason why I haven't been purchasing as many decks lately is because I really want to work with the decks that I already have, instead of just accumulating decks, even though it's fine to collect tarot decks, especially if you collect it for aesthetic purposes. If you really like the art on a tarot deck, like, by all means, I'm not stopping you from doing that. But I would really encourage you to think about why you're attracted to a certain deck. And also, if you've already purchased the tarot deck, or you've already like gone to the trouble of obtaining this tarot deck or this oracle deck or this charm system, use it. Use your tools, because they're when they're gathering dust and you're not using them, you're not benefiting from the connection it can bring you to your intuition. So Devon is saying about the Dreamkeeper's Tarot that she recommended by Liz Huston. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. She's saying the artwork is amazing, really beautiful to me. All right, I'm gonna have to look this up. Actually, since we have Dreamkeeper's Tarot deck. Oh my. Uh-oh. Oh, wow. It's really, really pretty. I mean, not that I didn't believe you. I believe you. Oh, boy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Let me go ahead and show people what you're talking about, Devon. It's really pretty. All right. Let me pull this up so people can see the beauty of the Dreamkeeper's Tarot. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. So there is the Dreamkeeper's Tarot. Let me, there we go. So you can see that a little bit better. That is gorgeous. Thank you, Devon, so much for sharing. I might have to get that deck. It's really pretty. So again, that's the Dreamkeeper's Tarot by Liz Huston. See it there? Gorgeous. Okay. Let me put this back up again. Okay. So, speaking of tools that I have not used, I've purchased and not used, I actually bought myself a spirit board, aka a Ouija board, and it has sadly been sitting in the box since I purchased it. It was a wonderful company called Fiendies, and they had a closing sale because they realized they just couldn't keep up with demand. And there were, I think, quite a few companies that were ripping off their original designs, and it was a very sad story, and it pissed me off a lot. But I did take advantage of their closing sale because I was just like, I'm going to kick myself if I do not purchase one of these Ouija boards. And yeah, so Katie might be getting that. So again, Katie, that is the Dreamkeeper's Tarot by Liz Huston. So actually, let me show you my beautiful, beautiful, I'm going to make a mess in here because I just have piles upon piles of stuff right now. I'm broadcasting live from my closet again, aka my studio. And I just have my divination tools and my books like surrounding me. So pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right? So let me push over some of this stuff, and hopefully I don't create a cavalcade or an avalanche. Oh, there's one of my chains from my Tessera Oracle. So we're going to talk about that one next, because I'm telling you, this episode is not going to be a long episode. I say that every single time, but especially when we're talking about tarot decks, like this is a fun episode. And I'm also going to make sure to link to my my card library, where I have basically a list of all of the tarot decks that I own, all of the Lenormand decks that I own, all of the Oracle decks that I own, different systems. I've got Lenono decks as well by Paris de Bono, and that's a different system entirely as well. That is not quite Lenormand, but it's not quite tarot either. So, oh, if I pulled this out, I think I'm going to create an avalanche. Please don't fall. Please don't fall. Like literally, guys, I have I have just boxes of divination stuff all over the place. So, by the way, as I'm about to pull out the spirit board, this is another one of my decks that I like, the Simple Tarot. Really great deck, and it has two different options. It has a beginner's deck that has keywords on it, and then just a regular deck that doesn't have the keywords on it. But it might be very helpful if you're a beginner to learning tarot and you want a little bit of help with like keywords and everything. The Simple Tarot, I really recommend that. It's a really great deck. So very, very simple. Like when it says the Simple Tarot, it is very simple imagery. But I find it to be very helpful, especially the way I teach tarot, because the symbols of the tarot card and the symbols that are on each and every tarot card give so much meaning as to the interpretation and the keywords associated with that card. So here's another deck that I particularly enjoy. Oh boy, this is going to be a problem. So here's a couple of cards. I don't think I have the deck right now, like right in front of me, but here are some examples of Kim Kranz's The Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. I don't call it a tarot deck. It does have 78 cards, but the 78 cards that are in this Archetypes deck, they are not really associated with the tarot archetypes. So like, for example, here, this card is the Creator. This card is the Shadow. This card is the Eternal Child. So notice that those aren't any traditional tarot cards. It's not the Hermit. It's not the Fool. So I don't consider it a tarot deck, even though it does have 78 cards. It doesn't have like the regular 78 cards of the tarot. So this is more of a like kind of an oracle. So this is the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. And look at the back. It's like almost like a diamond, the different facets. So yeah. And I actually attended the New York City launch party of this deck. I feel like I got the very last ticket. And I got a signed copy of the guidebook for this from Kim Kranz, and she had put each of the different archetype cards underneath each person's seat. And so when we pulled, I happened to gather up some of the ones that people left behind, but the one that I pulled was the Shadow, and it made me laugh because I had just embarked on I had just had my initiation for my priestess training, for my votary training, which is basically priestess training, and I had just started it a couple of days before I pulled this card. And I know that there is a lot of shadow work that goes into priestess work and training to be a priestess. So I mentioned that to the creator, Kim Kranz, and she was like dumbfounded when she found that out. I was just like, yeah, I started my priestess training and I got the shadow. So pretty awesome deck. Highly recommended, and you can find that on thewildunknown.com or wildunknown.com. I'm sure you're able to purchase through their website. So we put that to the side. Another deck that I really like, if you're especially looking to do love readings, this is the Enchanted Love Tarot by Amy Zerner and Monty Farber. And this is really great because it does have a guidebook that goes along with it, and the packaging is really nice too. I am such a stickler when it comes to packaging, because sometimes, you know, you have a deck and then you can't keep it. Like the whole reason for like you must wrap your tarot cards in silk and this and that and the other thing, it's usually because most tarot decks come in like really crappy packaging, or they used to come in really crappy packaging, like thin cardboard. And if you left it in the original packaging, you were going to end up dinging the edges of your tarot deck. So that's the reason, I think, where they came up with the whole, oh, you must wrap your deck in silk and fine linens, you know, like it's more because you're protecting the tarot deck and not necessarily because it needs to be wrapped in silk. A pouch will do just fine. So, but fortunately, lately, people have been catching wise to getting better with the packaging of tarot decks, of oracle decks. So this is the Enchanted Love Tarot, the Lover's Guide to Dating, Mating, and Relating. And it is in this beautiful box with a magnetic closure, like a really good magnetic closure. Like, hear that? And then you can put the guidebook in there, and also the deck is nested underneath the guidebook. So I like this deck for love readings. Another deck that I really like for love readings is the Mystic Dreamer Tarot by Heidi Darras, which I'm sure I can pull. Hold on one second. Yeah, I've got it over there. I've got it past my laptop, so I'm not going to pull it out right now. Otherwise, the whole thing is going to crash over. But yeah. So, and Katie, by the way, since you're joining us here, if you have any deck recommendations, whether it's tarot, oracle, charm system, please go ahead and drop it into the chat. We'd love to hear about it. That's how I found out about the Dreamkeeper's tarot, and I might be getting my paws on that. So those are some of the decks that I just uncovered to get to my spirit board, which I haven't used in a while, like at all. But use your tools. This is the reason why I'm going through like my favorite decks, because I want to remind people to use the tools that they have, you know, like don't be like me, searching for all the different tarot decks and being a hoarder, tarot deck hoarder. Use them, enjoy them, you know, and if you have a collector's item, that's fine. And if you want to make sure that it's in mint condition and you never want to use it, that's fine. Or get 2 decks, one that you can put aside into your collection and have it be mint and crisp and never used, and then one you can play with, right? I'm sorry, I have to pull this up. She's a magician pulling out decks. I don't have unfortunately I don't have like a top hat to pull these out of, right? So all right, let me pull this back up. So this was my spirit board that I got from Fiendies, and this is a little sticker that came with it. Like, I literally put everything back in its place. As this door closes, another one opens. Be seeing you. So that was their thank you. So hopefully maybe they'll make a recurrence somewhere else, or they'll be back again. But I have to show you guys this. So I'm going to have to hold this in place. Can you guys see that? So this is the package that it came in. So, and I want to be really careful that I don't damage any of this. but they packaged it really well, really beautifully. So this is my spirit board. And this is the actual size. So it's like a mini spirit board. Isn't this gorgeous? I'm going to like try and zoom in a little bit more. And these are all handcrafted laser cut. And then here's my planchette. Here's my planchette. And there's the two of them together. So you can see why I wanted to make sure that I had gotten at least one of these. It's so beautiful. And actually, true story, my mother, who is not a witch, my mother, when I was younger, taught me how to make my own Ouija board with little scraps of paper, and I feel like it was a brandy snifter or an aperitif like snifter, and you turn the glass over and you would use that as the planchette. So my mom, that is not a witch, who is not a witch, she taught me how to create a spirit board or Ouija board using scraps of paper and a little like brandy snifter. It makes me wonder where she learned how to do that. Who taught her how to do that? I'll have to ask her. So I'm putting this back together, making sure that everything is copacetic. So I don't know if they're going to be creating any more of those, but I had to share that because it's so precious to me that I actually have not used it. And I do want to caution you guys, if you want to use a Ouija board or a spirit board, make sure, you cast sacred space in whichever way you want to do that. And just be really careful and be very vigilant, because some spirit boards, like if you're not careful, it tends to attract lower energies. So you want to be very careful of that trickster energy that is sometimes associated with spirit board work. So Katie is saying, I have a mermaid oracle deck, but I can't recall the proper name. Not at home to grab it, but I'll pull the name up later. Wow, on the Ouija board sounds like some party she went to. Huh, I don't know about that. I don't know. She doesn't tend to be a party animal, but yeah. So let me see if that website is still up and running, though. No, I don't think so. So there's a website called All Hallows Geek that mentions about Fiendies closing its doors, and they closed the doors in April of last year. So that's how long I have not been I have not used it, but I bought that for myself as like a kind of like birthday gift to myself. And you can see why, because it's really gorgeous. So other decks that I love, geez, there's so many. So I am going to give you that list of my tarot deck library, which does include oracle decks, and here's, let me get into some of the other stuff. Oh yes, my tried and true tarot deck is the Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith. I'm primarily a Rider-Waite-Smith girl. So this is my Radiant Rider-Waite tarot. I always say Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith because I always want to give credit to Pamela Coleman Smith, aka Pixie, who did most of the artwork, if not all of the artwork on this. So we want to give credit where credit is due. Girl power, right? So this is my primary tarot deck, which I keep to hand. I was also teaching, when I was teaching my tarot students, I mentioned, so we're on module 3 currently. about spreads, learning spreads and creating spreads. And so I mentioned to them about the deck of 1,000 spreads, but I don't really want to mention it because I found out that it's out of print and it is going for some astronomical prices. Like deck of 1,000 spreads, some, I think Amazon is selling some at like $1,000. So I'm not parting with this anytime soon. But this is a really great tool for tarot spread creation. If you're looking into creating your own tarot spreads, which you can totally do with or without this handy dandy deck. But I do like it because it is bigger than a tarot card size, and you can just shuffle it, lay it out, and then have the tarot card be right on top here so that you're not having to look into a book as to, oh, which positional meaning is this? It's right there. So like, for example, this is underlying influences and the card would be right there on top. Answer, outcome, and they are color coded. So like red, I guess, is outcome like topics. Influence cards are blue. Green cards are a topic card. Orange is a character. And so I was mentioning, you know, if you have like a court card that happens to fall into this, it usually will mean that it's a person, instead of you having to guess whether it's energy or a person or a personality trait. That positional meaning kind of gives you a clue as to how to interpret that court card. So court card interpretation tip there. And also it has some blanks too. So that's the deck of 1,000 spreads by Tierney Sadler. And it's apparently retailing for a lot of money now because it's out of print. So I mentioned, you know, if you're going to do that, just get some index cards and write out your own positional meanings. I would never recommend someone paying $1,000 because that's just like stopping you from, you know, learning the tarot in the way that you want to, or learning how to create spreads in the way that you want to, right? So this is the Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith deck. You'll notice it's different from the traditional regular Rider-Waite-Smith deck in the back of the card. So at a quick glance, like if you got this starry background, this is Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith. If you've got the white and blue, like kind of cross hatching pattern on the back, that's a regular Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But this tends to be the Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith is a little bit watercolory, a little bit more muted on the color scheme. So like the yellows aren't so gold. The reds aren't so red. It just tends to calm down the color scheme a little bit. So I find it to be more palatable to use as a tarot deck. Yeah, not only that, so Katie's mentioning make your own cards sounds fun. So not only making your own positional meaning cards, you can also make your own oracle deck. Like you can totally do that, especially or make your own affirmation deck if you want to. Even if you don't have artistic ability, you can just write down sayings or affirmations that you like in pretty colored pens and make your own deck. Actually, we did that for one of the reader studios that I attended. I actually made my own little oracle deck of like maybe 24 cards, and they're on not post-it notes, index cards. So, and I am not an artist at all. So you could always do that too. So that's the Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith. That's one of my go-tos. I also mentioned the Mystic Dreamer deck by Heidi Darras. The Tarot of the Boroughs by Courtney Weber and George Courtney. That is a photographic deck, and honestly, it's one of the few photographic decks that I really like, and that's all about the photography comes from characters from New York City. Another photo altered deck is the Silver Era Tarot by Anya Khan, I think. is the name of the artist. And if I'm wrong on that, I apologize profusely, but that's just going from the top of my head. So a Lenormand deck that I like, and I'm making sure to leave a little bit of time for our weekend forecast because I see we're coming up on 5 minutes from 7:30. So this Lenormand deck I really like. It's the Kendra Herthaus, Kendra's Vintage Petite Lenormand. So it's tiny, it's little. And the reason why I like the Lenormands to be as small as possible, because there is a spread in Lenormand called the Grand Tableau, where you use all 36 cards of the Lenormand deck to read your client to filth. I am in no way an expert on Lenormand. I use it occasionally, and I've done a Grand Tableau, I think a total of 3 times for people. And I'm not even that great at it, but it tended to reveal very interesting information. So again, if you want to learn more about Lenormand, grab yourself a copy of The Essential Lenormand by Rana George, and she does also have a couple of Lenormand decks that she's created as well. And then here's my pendulum that I store with my Lenormand. So this is a Labradorite pendulum that I got, gosh, it's going to be, I think, 2 years ago at the Omega Center or the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck. So that's my Labradorite pendulum. I also have, I think, a rose quartz, like 7-star pendulum that's quite heavy. It's like a chunker. But I ended up breaking it, but it still works. So I ended up breaking off, like, I think 2 out of the 7 arms of the star. Because sometimes I'm rough with my pendulums. So finally, another thing that I love, and I can't say enough good things about this little pouch right here, the Tessera Oracle by Tori Walcott. It is, gosh, I don't know how many charms she's come out with now, but I've bought them all, every single one. But you can mix and match your charms to be whatever you want to. But I just keep on purchasing every single charm that she comes out with because I can't not. I love them so much. But they're beautiful charms. Oh, this one happens to be the flower charm. See right there. And the best part about this is you can use them in conjunction with each other to give a reading, and then whatever charm you're feeling resonates with the energy that you want to embody or to remember that reading, you can then, there is a hole bored into the top of the charm at each and every charm. So what you do is you take the necklace, the chain that's provided, and you can put it right through the top. Hopefully I'm going to get this right here. And then, hold on. I'm going to mess this up. There we go. There you go. And then you can wear it. So you're actually wearing the message and that energy. So this was one of my favorite things ever. I missed out on the Kickstarter, but when she went into general production of these, I lost my mind and I bought everything. And I also bought my bestie a set of them too. And so I keep on buying 2 charms, one for me, one for my bestie, every single time a new charm comes out. So love, love, love that. And I will put that into the group as well, into the chat. So you can purchase whatever you want to, whatever floats your boat. So I'm going to now grab that link that I was talking about, that I've been talking about the entire time, from my website about my tarot deck library, which is a kind of behind the scenes post. So, library. and we are going to do the weekend forecast. Does anyone have any requests as to where you would like the weekend forecast from? While I'm pulling up the tarot deck library. There's so many different decks that I didn't even get to cover tonight, but they're like, that's the problem. There's so many different wonderful decks, whether the tarot decks, whether they're oracle decks. And this is what I want to leave you with tonight is, if you're not resonating with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and you prefer the Thoth deck, that's fine. That's great. Go for it. If you're resonating with the Bonefire Tarot or the Mystic Dreamer Tarot or the Crow Tarot, and you don't want to go with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith and you want to work with that particular deck more, go for it. You have to see your life in a tarot deck or an oracle deck. You have to be attracted to the imagery. Otherwise, it's going to make for a pretty poor tarot reading or oracle reading. You know, like if you can't relate to those cards or that imagery coming up, you're not going to be able to ascribe meaning. And then you're not going to get a great reading. You're just not, especially if you have a very visceral reaction or you like the imagery on the deck scares you to the point where you can't work with the deck. Like that's not the right deck for you. So I urge you to go out there and find a deck that you really like, because as case in point, there are so many decks out there. So there's no reason for you not to be able to find a deck that is going to work wonderfully for you. Reach out, and whatever deck that your hand is attracted to, read from that. Let's see what I've stored in my Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith box. Interesting. So I'm not quite sure which deck this is that I'm grabbing. I have a feeling it's one of the Book of Shadows tarot decks, but I'm not sure if it's the As Above or the So Below, because there's 2 volumes. But that's what I grabbed for first. So that's the one that I'm going with. Okay, Katie? So this is the one that I'm going to read from. So I believe this is from Llewellyn Publishing, and I believe it's the Book of Shadows tarot deck. But I'm not sure if it's the As Above or the So Below. There's a volume 1 deck and there's a volume 2 deck. So I don't know which one it is. So let's shuffle up, because it is time for the weekend forecast. You're absolutely right. Let me change up the agenda. Change up that. Change up that. Okay. So we do have the weekend forecast. Remember, if you didn't tune in earlier, at the top of the episode, I did talk a little bit about the astro forecast, the astro weather, because we are currently in Mercury in retrograde. So remember that. Also remember that there will be a new moon in Pisces on Sunday. So feelings might be very, very raw, and also your intuition might be just on fire. So pay attention to any signs, synchronicities, anywhere that your intuition is pointing, especially on Sunday. Remember that both the new moons and the full moons can be felt 3 days before, the day of, and 3 days after. So we are definitely in the thick of not just the Mercury in retrograde energy, but also that new moon in Pisces energy. So be careful. Make sure that you're not hurting anyone's feelings and that you're not hurting your own feelings. And also Sunday is a wonderful day for self-care. Even if you can't manage to get yourself to the spa or get yourself to the nail salon or whatever, like do an at-home facial or face mask or whatever self-care means to you. Even if it's only 5 minutes, even if it's only 10 minutes, do something nice for yourself on Sunday. Okay? Okay. So Weekend forecast, weekend forecast. What do we need to know for this weekend? Okay. No! So once again, the tarot has a wonderful sense of humor. So the weekend forecast that we're getting from the Book of Shadows tarot, I'm not sure if it's the As Above or the So Below deck, is the Strength card. So the Strength card, when the Strength card comes up, I usually don't like it very much because it usually indicates that we have way more strength than we think we do. We have way more fortitude than we think that we do. And it usually comes up when boundaries are being tested, or when we have to assert our boundaries, or when we have to find those reserves, that inner strength within us to get us through the situation at hand. So it sometimes can be associated with very trying times, especially with what I just said, with Mercury being in retrograde, with the new moon in Pisces. Feelings are raw and real, but our intuition is there to guide us and help us. And with the Strength card coming up, you've got more gas in the tank, more than you actually know. And the saying, like, you never know how strong a woman is. Like, she's like a tea bag, you never know how strong she can be until she's put in hot water. Like, bleh. But at the same time, it's true. So that's the phrase that's coming up when I'm seeing the Strength card for our weekend forecast. And notice how she's not forcing the lion's mouth open in this particular artistic interpretation. She's just sitting next to him as he's sleeping peacefully. It's a very peaceful card. So I hope that that energy is what you can embody this weekend. Peaceful strength. So that's your weekend forecast, the Strength card. I hope it helps to serve you. You've got way more strength than you guys know of. Thank you again so much for watching this episode. If you have any particular recommendations as to what you want me to cover in the next few episodes, or however many episodes I'm doing, I do this every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know it. I know it. I say it every single time. And I would love to hear what topics you want me to cover. So don't be shy. You can always message me. You can always DM me on my Facebook page, or email me, Hillary@tarotbyhillary.com. Let me pull that up again. Yeah, so let me know what you guys want me to talk about and what you guys want me to cover, because I do this for you. And now that you've seen my crazy magpie tendencies, and you're going to see even more when you look at that list that I provided to you in the chat, the behind the scenes of my tarot deck library, you're going to be like, whoa, that's a lot of decks. Don't ask me to count them. I don't want to count them. But if you ever book a reading with me and you have a preference on which tarot deck you would like me to read with, I can certainly do that for you. So remember that I am available for in-person readings if you happen to be in Westchester County, New York, or the surrounding areas. We can definitely meet in person. I am available for phone readings, Skype readings, and email readings as well. So if you would like to book a reading with me, the website is right there, tarotbyhillary.com. And once again, we are going to do this next Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, as you all know, I'm Hillary, a professional tarot reader, demystifying the mystical and putting you in touch with your intuition, because yes, my friend, you have intuition. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.